Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the Soul Connections Conversations. I am Teresa Echaide, your host and creator of this series. This is a gathering space where we share our spiritual journeys and our soul's connections, purpose, and gifts. We're weaving a spiritual community here. On my spiritual journey, I have met so many wonderful soul sisters and brothers that are soul connections. Wonderful souls that have helped me, guided me, and taught me, and above all, connected at a deep soul level. I'm honored, happy, and excited to bring them into this circle to share their stories with us. And today we have my friend Rodrick Chambers. How are you?
I am fantastic and thrilled that you would share your platform with me. I'm excited about where the journey will take us for this conversation. And just a quick tad bit, this is so serendipitous because Teresa was a guest on my podcast more than a few moons ago, and it's just an honor to be able to bring this back, have some reciprocity. So I'm excited about just this journey that we're going to take together.
Definitely, definitely. So excited to have you. And we have collaborated many occasions and I love
Yes,
it. It's always so rich, so rich. So
indeed.
let me tell
Indeed.
the audience about you.
Okay.
So Mr. Rodrick Chambers is a multi-talented individual, renowned author, scholar, recording artist, and the visionary CEO of H2O, Healing to Optimization LLC. He's also the creator of Harmonic Essence Therapy, a nutritional massage infused with soulful sound healing. With an insatiable curiosity and passion for holistic well being, Mr. Chambers has dedicated his life to empowering individuals to reach their full potential and optimize their health and happiness. This is so good. Let's just go right. I love it because I love it because I've seen your growth and your evolution,
Yes.
and you know
Yes, yes, yes.
it's so good to witness each other in this way.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So just, to get started, just tell the audience about yourself. How was your growing up like? What significant stories do you feel contributed to your interest in the spirit world and esoteric kinds of bodies of work?
Wow. Even though we prepared these questions, this is a very interesting question, because there's so much. I think, like many of us who are in the spiritual community or takes this journey, there's so many different parts of the story that you can share. And so I'll start with the basics. I was born in Midland, Texas. I am a Texas native, and you will probably, if you haven't already heard the accent, you will likely hear the accent during this interview. But I was born in Midland, Texas. After maybe about 6 or 7, then we moved to Odessa for a short period. And then I spent most of my growing up years in Arlington, Texas, in the DFW Metroplex. And from there, I got a football scholarship and moved to New Mexico. I was out there for almost 12 years. And from there, I've just kind of traveled across the country, if you will, and across the world. And I'm sure we'll have a chance to talk more about that. But my growing up years, I was born to two teenage parents. I'm the second oldest. I have a sister. Her and we're, I guess, considered Irish twins. We're 9 months apart. My mother was 13 when she had her, and she was 14 when she had me. My dad was, of course, 13. He's just about a year older than my mother. And that was has been a very interesting journey to have, in some cases, grown up with my parents, and the exposure and the experiences we've had over the years. And at this point, at 40 years old, I make it a point to honor my mother and my father and all of the work that I do, because at 40, I recognize that, and I don't have any children and don't have a family of my own, but I'm constantly reminded every year of my birthday how much of a challenge it would be to raise children at this age. And it's hard for me to even imagine at 12 and 13, when you're finding out that you are bringing children or a child into this world, how impossible the journey could look. And I often tell my biological parents and my step parents, how much of a strength their story is to me, because it leaves me with very, very, very little excuses to pursue my passions and to pursue the mission that I'm on. And so that's just a little background about myself in terms of my growing up years, and kind of some travel that I've had in my younger life. And like I said, I'm sure we'll get more into some of the travel that I've had in my adult life. Does that answer your question?
Yes, of course. And that's so touching. I love that
Yeah,
how you honor your parents and recognize and are aware how it's not easy and how, I had a conversation earlier today with a teacher, and, at a certain point in my life too, you know, I was just accepting that they did the best they could with the tools that they had at their time. And,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I mean, we could make this entire series, we could make mini series off of I saw a little short video on Instagram or one of the social media feeds, and it was just talking about how when your parents are raising children, it's the first time that they've had the experience.
Mm.
In our case, I was a second. My sister and I, we're the two oldest. And I should acknowledge I have 8 siblings, I think seven siblings. So it's a long line of us. I'm the second oldest, as I've mentioned. But one of the things I really encourage some of my siblings to understand when they are encountering perhaps some challenges with their parents is that it's you don't get a roadmap to raise children. And whether it was victories or failures, as much as we can focus on the victories, I mean, it doesn't mean that you don't have boundaries or anything like that, but as much as you can focus on the contributions that your parents have made and they're still in their right minds, is huge. It's a huge piece. And that, some may say, well, that bar is probably too low, but man, if you I don't have children, but I've done enough to either contribute to mentees or younger, participate with youth, or I've seen many raise children around me, and I recognize it's one of the most challenging jobs in life. It really
Mm.
is. And so my hat goes off to all parents who are raising children from 0 to 99.
Yes, definitely. And also, you mentioned something. I compare my with my sisters. Like every child is different. It has a different upbringing, and in our case, it was born in different countries, different times, same
Wow,
set of
yeah,
parents, but the circumstances were different as well. So
for
we
sure.
all share the commonality, but the upbringing was very different in our cases.
Yeah,
And I'm sure with your parents with so many children, yes.
absolutely. As old as our the older siblings have the stories of, man, I couldn't get away with that or that. It's like you're looking at your younger siblings like, man, I wish I would have tried something like that. My whole face would be across the room. But you recognize, as you just shared, that your parents do get the benefit of experience, the experience of raising the older children and recognizing at some point, okay, that worked and that didn't work with the oldest children. So I'm going to apply what actually worked and see if I can, somehow shorten the learning curve on these set of children. Sometime it works, sometime, you got to go back
Yeah,
to the drawing board.
it's all part of the experience. So
Yeah,
thank you for sharing that. And
yeah.
and let's go into like how and when was your spiritual awakening? Tell us your story.
You know, I've somewhat thought long and hard about how to answer this one, but the interesting part of my journey, most of my family have grown up as Christians, fundamentalist Christians, growing up either in the Baptist church, mostly in the Baptist church was our upcoming, the Black Baptist church. But I also had a part of my family that brought um, African spirituality, root work, as some would call it in the South, into their experiences. And only in my adult life, as I've made intention to reclaim some of that history and to, in some cases, just reevaluate how I understood African spirituality and these kinds of things um, outside of the context of the Christian perspective. And that has been just a whole learning experience. But I think it's important at this stage in my life that I mention those elements because I recognize how much it has shaped my family views, as well as it's now start to give me a different perspective on my own upbringing when it concerns spirituality outside of the organization or the institution, the formal institution of church. So my early years definitely started, being a part of Christmas plays during Christian academies, different nurseries that we would go to. But we would also kind of hear about these other elements that were, voodoo and that's a devil and, all these kind of things. But something that always piqued my interest growing up because it was taboo. And oftentimes when we have those kind of taboo elements in our development, it's very easy to, for kids to just start to fantasize about, well, why are they keeping that such a secret? What all these kind of spiritual activities that are happening? And, you really want to try to figure those things out. But for the most part, my experiences growing up were very much so Christian. I've been a part of choirs. My paternal grandmother played the organ. And so she was very faithful in keeping us around the organ or the piano, teaching us different songs and cultivating all the grandkids' ability to sing some church, song to keep us connected. And so these things were kind of my early stages of connecting with spirit, if you will. It developed into me being very interested just in paranormal life, being exposed to, ghosts and aliens and all these kind of things. When I was coming up, some of the big TV programs that were out were Unsolved Mysteries and Sightings and these kinds of things that really start to play into spirituality and kind of just wanting to connect those pieces and not really having the abilities to logically know that that's what I was doing. But I would go to the library. I was an avid reader. My mom was very adamant about making sure that we had books. She wouldn't let me really play video games. And so my ability to read and write really increased as a result of her always purchasing us books. And I don't think she ever had to make me read, but she always bought us books. And once I was connected to reading, it was just, I was one of those troubled kids. I didn't particularly like to go to school, but I loved to read. And so I would go to the libraries and start finding books that dealt with psychics. I'm in junior high and looking at books for psychics and, what witchcraft was, since that was a taboo conversation being had in my family. I would, go to the library and sneak to read about these different things. I was very interested in scary stories and, those kind of things really begin to draw me into a particular genre of reading. And then, of course, when the Bible was something that was pushed, or, I was given my first Bible per se, it really began to create certain narratives around how to understand spirituality. So by the time I was in junior high, I was reading a lot of these other kind of paranormal type of books, but then my church experiences became more constant, and the Bible, of course, became more of um, a living, breathing document, I guess you can say, that had the intention to kind of guide what spirituality was. And so, reading the book of Genesis and starting to kind of understand the Nephilim and the angels and the renowned giants, of course, this just kind of fed into the amplification of this world has so many different parts and pieces that you go to school and you're learning about Texas history and US history. It's like, this is boring because the stuff I'm reading in my private time is not necessarily is going above and beyond the basic things that we're covering in school. And so, not to palaver too much, but I just want to say that these were kind of the early elements, the learning about the African spirituality, just kind of having that exposure to that, and then kind of the church experience, and then just wanting to weave together some of those pieces of what was being experienced in church, and then what was kind of being experienced in my family, and what was being taboo in the family. Just kind of coming to that point in junior high where I was wanting to marry those together. And then much of those aspects about non-church experiences became very far in distance whenever I really started to connect more with church and that whole experience. And of course, it demonized a lot of the readings that I was that piqued my interest from the start. And so, because of me wanting to grow in my Christian faith, I abandoned a lot of that material, and just really didn't return to it for years, because the way that it was either preached against or the way that it was taught to me on how to view these things. And so for many, many years, that Christian perspective shaped the way that I would experience or I would encounter spirituality. And so I'll stop there and let you perhaps follow up with any other questions.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I love that. I love your mama that she introduced you to reading, and that's kind of, spark your curiosity to search and look. I have the same. I was so, I think we're lucky enough that we grew up in a time that there were so much, so many distractions as far as technology, video games, I mean, well, I was either outside or reading, which is great. And, that shaped who I am.
Mhm.
And, but yeah, I love that
For
that
sure.
your curiosity, aside from the church, took you on this spiritual path. And then of course, I kind of have a similar too. I was brought up in Spain, which is Catholic, and everything that you're taught is Catholic. And then once you have your own
Mhm.
brain and thoughts, you start questioning things. and
Yeah.
and yeah, but then life, you grow up, life things happen and whatnot. And yeah, like then I picked it up later on as well, like you mentioned, and for the last, I don't know, my awakening was like 2012. I'm like, I don't have enough time to read all the books that I buy. It's like,
Right.
the minute I'm reading something, like I find five more that I have to
Right.
read,
Right.
and just kind of feeds my soul and my spirit, like you mentioned. And yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I love that common thread we have there.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know if I answered the question directly as far as the awakening. I don't know if there was ever like one particular moment that defined my awakening. It just, one thing led to another, and that led to this, and that led to this connection. And I'm grateful for all parts of the story, but I don't know if there was, I guess the biggest quote unquote awakening that I had was related to what we called in our tradition being filled with the Holy Ghost or the Holy Spirit. And we had what we called the birthing room in our particular ministry. And they would make announcements, let's say during revival, and I was in high school at this time. But they essentially, what they did is they created ritual and ceremony around being possessed by the Holy Spirit. And so we would leave out the main congregation, and then we would go to a separate part of the congregation, and you would have a variety of ministers that would then come and lay hands on you, and they would pray with you that, depending on the denomination, it would be referred to as tarrying, or you're waiting for the Holy Spirit to fill you. And so that experience was something very vibrant was very freeing. It was one of the first times that I felt a significant kind of release that in all of my church experience before, I was already having some of those experiences, but in that kind of ceremonial atmosphere, it gave me permission to fully give myself to this spirit, or to the spirit realm, if you want to put it in that way. And so, to answer the question about a particular awakening, that was, I think, one of the most significant parts of the earlier stages of awakening in high school. And from that moment moving forward, it just became kind of a momentous building block. And that's come with some very joyous occasions, and have come with some great conflicts, as you kind of alluded to, with once you start asking too many questions that make people uncomfortable, then you realize that, oops, I'm really starting to either tap into something really great, or they about to kick me out. So, and some people did. I am an ordained minister, and so um, I've had some very interesting conversations with other ministers and with other churchgoers, and I've at this point, what I say, I've learned the skill of really being discerning on who to have the conversations with, as opposed to just being the very green and curious person, and just kind of wanting to share my thoughts with, those who I, felt that I could share those experiences with, and not realizing how they were interpreting my questions, and how they were perhaps interpreting my experiences as being something that was threatening their own belief systems. And that became a very interesting journey to kind of recalibrate for myself. So,
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Beautiful and wonderful. And that makes me shift into like how we met and our soul connection, and where all this started. And it was a class through Ubiquity University that you were working at that time, right? It
yes.
was on wisdom studies. I don't even recall the whole title, but it was an immersion. It was an immersion, and with other people there. But I remember
Yes.
resonating with, like, because it was like like our curious minds to like find about soul and spirit, and
Yes,
without
yes,
having
yes.
any dogma. And I remember we connected, like our ears perked up when like sacred geometry, and like the
Yeah.
consciousness of nature, and the mountains, and then you and I started talking.
Right, right. Yeah, it truly was just that soul connection where you recognize that, well, okay, that's a soulmate. We gotta stay connected. And it's been effortless since. And the class it was called New Civilization class in Wimberley,
Yes.
Texas, near Austin, Texas. And I'd actually just got back from China during that time. I think I may have been back not even a full week, and flew into Houston. And my sister brought me down to Wimberley, Texas for the week, because I believe the class was about a week, right?
Yes, correct. And yeah,
Yeah.
me too. I came in from California. I was already connected with, the Earth Tribe there in Wimberley, Texas. And this was part, a beautiful location that we were
Yeah, for sure.
by the river and everything. And it was just so enriching, and everything that when in that class, it was just really truly enriching. But yeah, we like, from different places, but the consciousness aligned us, and there we were.
Yes, yes, yeah.
And the rest is history.
The
Then
rest was history.
we have our paths have taken us through so many different
Oh man.
explorations and growth. And I know you went back to China, and now let's just go into who you are now and what you do. Tell the audience your soul gifts, your offerings, what you bring
Yeah.
into.
Yeah. So I'll just start with somewhat backwards. So I developed a therapy called Harmonic Essence Therapy. Um, the name may be going through a few different changes, but for now, we're going to stick with Harmonic Essence Therapy. Yes, and that's one of the books that I
Here it
published here,
is. Here's the
the
book that
Happy
just came
book.
out, and it goes into that. So I love it.
And I have to give a shout out to Teresa because that was, I think that's my second or third publication, but Teresa's been such a faithful just friend in supporting, whatever I've done, whether it's been, writing books or it's been, having different versions of podcasts. I've had at least two or three different kinds of podcasts. I mean, she's been connected and I've interviewed her a few times. And so, anyway, that being said, the therapy that I've come up with, it's called Harmonic Essence Therapy, which I am a licensed and certified massage therapist, along with a certified nutrition coach. And I have a few other certifications, but the idea of the harmonic essence therapy was to bring the different facets of what I do, which is coach health. I coach deep health as well as spirituality. And so I want to bring all those nuances together. And so harmonic essence therapy is a nutritional massage infused with soulful sound healing. As Teresa mentioned earlier, I am a recording artist. And I have a degree in music. And so to bring all of the different parts of who I am into one therapy has been really, really, really refreshing. And it's been extremely new because this was only the last maybe 3 to 4 months, 3 to 4 months that I was able to come up with the actual therapy. All the other individual parts of my practice, they've been separate. And so each time that I would go to a different business networking event, or I would go out and promote my business or be a part of different events, it was always me having to kind of split myself and talk about, this is what I do with the massage, this is what I do with the spiritual coaching, this is what I do with the nutritional coaching, and this is what I do with the music. The music was an entirely different aspect. I wouldn't really bring that up unless the environment required for me to do so, but most of the time it would just be focused on those three particular practices. And so for the most part of this year, the therapy itself is still being developed. And so I'm not necessarily promoting it as a huge launch, but Teresa and I have had conversations about just where am I with, my therapy and with what I'm doing. And so I've shared that with her. And so I'm sharing it with the audience. And you can go to my website and there's some small introductions, but I'm really keeping that as private as I can right now until I feel pretty confident that I have a well-oiled therapy that I can actually go and start promoting. So in the meantime, I still operate as a massage therapist. I do very little coaching right now with intention. That's something I really want to imbue into my therapy, and I'm going to really market that within that therapy, as opposed to taking individual clients. Most of the clients that I take in are just mentees or close friends that I share information with, or people that I'm actually in partnership with, where we'll go back and forth and really mold some of the other workshops and courses that I've developed with some of the books that some that has been published and some books that are still in process to being published. But everything is pretty much corresponding under the umbrella of H2O, the healing to optimization. So it's all coming together. So that's where I am today. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yes, thank you. And that's really good. I mean, you're really multifaceted. I know other stuff about you, like can't believe you lived in China for so long. So I mean, it's like you're unique. I know you're a football player, all these things about you that is like, wow, it's just like continue to grow, and I
Yeah,
love it. So this is your baby, this is your
this
creation, that's what
is.
you're doing.
Yes,
And I know, I mean, of course you just gonna want to like, okay, it's in the oven, it's coming, it's here, it's arriving.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, it is, to speak to the audience and to speak to, to your people. I think one of the things that I am, and not I think, I know I'm an advocate of, and it's to all of the dreamers and all of us, especially in the spiritual community, where um, it can be discouraging at times because when we talk about the spirit, it is very subjective in many cases. It's very individualized, and it can sound very crazy to loved ones and people who are in our close circles. Um, and so being able to encourage people to say, hey, once you come into terms with what it is that your spirit is drawing you to really believe in it and really nurture it, because it doesn't necessarily require other people to be on board with the vision that you have. And I think the sooner that you recognize that, and the sooner that you make an investment into the visions that you have, then the more, or should I say, the less dependent you are on a particular support system until you get your tribe. I like Teresa. Some people, maybe you're already at the point to where you have your tribe, so to speak. Some of us are on the journey where um, your tribe may be, YouTube videos or books, or, you may get, friends who you may speak to every now and then. But all of those things really do matter. But at the end of the day, what's most important is how much do you believe in what you've been getting, and how much are you nurturing the vision that you have? And that being said, to just talk about my own process, I knew coming into this year, I was going to have to micro scale my business. My business has been in operation since officially since 2017. I got my LLC about, I guess this month will make about 4 years ago, 3 years ago, I'm sorry. And so it's been a process of evolving my company, my business. Some years it's been more active. This year I'm taking a different route that's going to generate a lot more money. But I understand that the vision for the change is really going to be to cultivate my own company and to make sure that my baby is still being nurtured. And, when it comes time to present it to whoever it needs to be presented to, it's going to have grown much more than what it's had capabilities to do these last 6 months to a year. So I just want to encourage people with that part of my story and journey as well.
Yeah, thank you. That's so wonderful. And I love it. Like you bring the tribe, the word tribe. I mean, we all want to belong and to share. And, my motto for this year that I'm also creating my business is like, build it, they will come. Build it, they will come. It's like, and, like people will, they don't have to like resonate with everything I bring or
Hmm.
like you bring, but if you find that one thread, like that's why I'm doing this. It's like I'm weaving the web like the spider. So we have different threads, and we become a larger community, a larger
Yes,
tribe.
yes,
And it's like, and us sharing these, people who resonate with you, want to learn from you, they will go to you, and we build a connection. And other people who resonate with what I offer will come to me. And but
exactly.
we are in service in the spiritual world, and how you say, uplifting each other, and
Yes.
those dreams, and working towards that. So it's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, Teresa, how proud I am of you, because as you mentioned earlier in our conversation, how you've been a process of the evolution of me. And I want to return that back to you as well, because I remember before, while we were in between the podcast, it was just like, to have to put ourselves on Front Street and be on social media. It's not something that we both are comfortable doing, but it's like, okay, how do we want to show up in the world? And we knew that that was going to be part of our journey. And to see you now taking your visions to the next level, where you have your website, you have, the podcast moving, I'm just like, if I was in this library right now, she knows I'm a very expressive person and I like to give like sunshine energy all the way out. And so this is really, really conservative of me right now. But that being said, I'm super proud of you and keep it going and keep giving out the light and keep believing in what you're doing because it is making a significant change in our world.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Look, I feel like the sunshine. You don't have to be loud. I feel the energy, it's like
Awesome.
it's like beaming. You're beaming it to me through
There
the waves over here. So,
we go.
I
There we go.
appreciate you so much.
My pleasure.
And that's why these are the soul connections that I want to bring
Yes,
to the
indeed.
world. It's
Indeed.
like how our journeys have been,
Yes.
and all these soul connections is always being like the right people at the right place at the right time. It,
Yes,
it, it was
indeed.
chance meetings and encounters. I like it said, there was a phrase in that class that perked up our little ears. I'm like, let's talk
Right.
about these.
And I have to say that the crazy part is Teresa moved to Texas for a short period. I ended up moving back to Texas. She moved back to California, and now I'm in California.
I know.
You
See,
know, so
soul connections. We're coming back to
soul
California.
connections, man. Soul connections.
I love it. I love it so much. And tell the audience a little bit about what you're offering right now, because you're in California. Tell where you are and the massage services that you offer, so
Yeah.
people who are in that area could like look you up.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm currently in Oceanside, California. I'm working primarily at a spa in Mission Viejo, Burke Williams, and I'm really pushing people there. I continue to do mobile therapy. So I do come to people's homes. They're about to close the library, so I gotta wrap it up. But yeah, I do home calls, and so I do events and those kind of things. And so within 30-mile radius, even a 40-mile radius, depending on the days that I'm in Mission Viejo, we could likely work something out in terms of massage. As far as the coaching goes, again, that's something, if you are interested, then I have a couple of inquiry documents on my website, which is H as in heaven, the number two, O as an octave dash the number one.com. And again, that's H, the number two dash, excuse me, H2O dash one.com. You can go there, you can fill out the inquiry. My contact information is on there. You can always reach out to me via email or phone number. And if you're really just like, hey, I connect with what you do and I really want to know more, learn more, I'm always willing to set up a time with you. But as far as doing full immersive coaching, I won't be doing that right now, but stay tuned.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. I know in due time it'll come out. And don't worry, I'm gonna post all your website, your social media, and everything
Fantastic.
below this video so everybody can find you. I have one last question because I'm curious. You said me that you did the prophetic calendar.
Oh,
What is that?
yeah.
Can you tell
Oh,
us,
and
please?
so thank you so much, Teresa. You're just a bomb.com. So and I'll refer back to my website as well. There is a section for product. So all of everything, my books, the calendar, the prophetic calendar was something that I actually started with a friend of mine about, well, I guess about 10 years ago, in 2014, January 2014. So I was a part of a prophetic team where anybody who's grown up in any kind of Christian community, you recognize that, when you read the Bible, you have old prophets, prophets of old, or when you understand perhaps even what we call the apostolic fivefold ministry, the prophet is a part of that ministry. And so for many, many years, in my late teens, early 20s, we would form communities where we would prophesy, what some would say was kind of like psychic work, but you were essentially using scriptures to divinely give people guidance, spiritual guidance. And so as a result of this skill, I just kind of took it to its next level. I obviously love to read, I obviously love to write. And so I would constantly be writing different things that, came as a result of prophetic dreams or dreams that would say very significant things about the future or about current events that was happening. And so again, about 10 years ago, a friend of mine, a close friend of mine and mentor and the ministry that I'm actually ordained under, I began to give her specific instructions for every month of the year, including at the time I didn't realize the actual changes in calendars and these kind of things. I just kept feeling like, okay, I don't know why, but there's 2 or 3 different calendars or calendar years that I'm seeing, but I don't understand what this is. And I would just label these things out. And so as a result, over the years, I continue to do this. And if you go to my website, you can see that I did publish a prophetic numerology calendar for the year of 2023, and it actually ends April of 2024. And for those who are following calendars and things like that, understand that April is actually March or April is the first month of the actual year. And so I will be publishing another 2024 calendar rolling into 2025 based on our Julian calendar. What were you? I don't know, whichever calendar we on.
Gregorian calendar.
Gregorian, thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Wow, how fabulous. I'm gonna check that out. And I love it. And you speak the truth. Like we know that the ones who are finding the truth, the year starts in springtime. That's following the cycles of nature.
Indeed.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. So beautiful. Cause yeah, like this, you are the March podcast person. So like the beginning of the year, right? And
Yeah,
yes.
that is cool. Yeah. Yeah.
And everybody again get the
Oh, thank
happy
you.
book. It's on Amazon. Uh, that gives you a little bit of a peek and introduction what Rodrick is working on this wonderful therapy. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you so much. You are so full of joy and just like you're
Thank you.
just like beaming good energy and light and I learn so much every time we talk.
Likewise. Thank you.
Yeah, and I know the audience is gonna resonate with who you are, number one, and what you're
Thank
offering
you.
and what you're bringing. You have a whole spectrum of talents that we just barely scratched the surface. We didn't even listen to any of your music or anything like that, but everything will be posted so people can find it. And
Indeed. Indeed.
yeah, it's a very enriching, soulful conversation today, Roderick. I
Yes.
appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much, Teresa. And blessings on your podcast and everything, all your endeavors that you are doing. Just decree so many abundant blessings on what you're doing.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for being here with us. Blessings to everyone. Goodbye.
Okay. Bye-bye.